This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Grant.
Welcome, Grant. How you doing today, bud?
I'm actually doing really well. I had my cranberry juice.
Cranberry juice.
Woo-woo. And we're having a great little time with Periscope
we
people.
Are.
Trying to go back to high school German class and trying to figure that out.
Food? I don't know. I'm not going to try. I don't want to offend anybody.
Schweinsteiger.
I was going to say, I could name the people on the German national team, but that's the extent of my German. That's the extent of my acceptable German. I could say the things that I know from history, but I don't think that's appropriate for the air or for our listeners.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to the show. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show. We are here broadcasting to you live on Spreaker.com and on Sports Radio America. Remember, you can catch us now Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. Central, live right here on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. And then from 11 to 1 Central on Sports Radio America and Live 365 and TuneIn. And then also on demand anytime on iHeartRadio and on iTunes as well.
You can also find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at the Bax and Grant Sports Show. And you can also find us on Twitter at BG Sports Show. And you can also find us on Instagram and Snapchat at BG Sports Show. On Twitter, Baxter's personal Twitter account is at Baxter Colburn, and mine is Grant's Rant BGSS.
Absolutely. Good morning to all of you that are tuning in right now live here on Spreaker and on Periscope as well. Good morning to C-Plath 10. What's up, brah, for Ruffian 1990, I think.
Ruffian.
Ruffian. You say Ruffian, I say Ruffian.
I said Ruffian, you said Ruffian.
It's irrelevant. That doesn't matter, Grant.
Anyway.
I have a scenario for you, Grant,
all
as
right.
we get into our show today. Hypothetically, let's say you're a star athlete. Congratulations, you're a star. You're a star goalie.
You're welcome.
You're a star goalie for a hockey team, for your favorite hockey team. Okay. And let's say you're not happy though. You're not happy. You wanna move to a new team. Okay.
All right.
You want to move back to, let's say, your home state. Okay. Hypothetically, and the deal goes through. And everything is exciting. You know, you're going to transfer. You're going to finally be back in your home state. You're going to see your play, in front of your family, your good friends. And then you find out, Grant, that the paperwork didn't go through in time. And you're now staying at the same team that you don't like.
Womp, womp, womp.
How would you feel about that?
I'd be pretty upset.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much what's happened with David De Gea of Manchester United. He was all set to go back to Spain, where he's from. He's originally from Spain. He plays for the Spanish national team, and he was going to go back to Spain and play for Real Madrid, which I'm sure you're familiar with the name Real Madrid.
I am.
Even Manchester United. You're
yes.
familiar. Yes. Yep. So his paperwork is all set to go, and then he was super excited because he wanted to get out of Dodge. He was like, screw this. I don't want to be in England anymore. And then it comes out late last night that supposedly all of his paperwork didn't get filed in time to make the transfer happen. So now it looks like he might be stuck in Manchester United, where he hasn't played, or potentially, for the rest of the season. So there's more details that are still coming out with it, but it's unlikely that they're going to try to push the deal through. They're trying to both sides are trying to appeal FIFA to let the deal go through. But right now, it sounds like it's not going to happen. So I just think it's funny because he hasn't played all season long, and it's funny. Anyway, so but on another side note, I just was curious to know how you'd feel about that.
That really sucks.
Yeah,
like I didn't know about that because I'm not a big soccer. Well, I guess this is /football.
Yes,
this would be football.
That's football. For our German listeners, it's a football.
But that's just absolutely nuts that something like that would happen because the trade deadline was last night, correct? Or
yes, transfer window technically closes yesterday to this morning, kind of. They're very loose.
Yeah, and hearing about, I've never heard of something like that happen in the sports world, so that's just really weird, and that'd be super upsetting. Because
I think Man U wanted to get rid of him because De Gea hadn't played. And they were getting a goalie in the deal with Real Madrid. They were setting De Gea to Real Madrid, and they were going to be getting 46 million pounds, I think, or euros, or whatever the weird symbol it was. And they were getting a top goalkeeper also. They were getting one of Real Madrid's top goalkeepers in exchange for De Gea. So it was kind of a win-win for both sides. Yes, Man U was making some money off the deal, but even still, it's like it wasn't like Man U was like, oh, we don't want him to go because we're not going to get any good players. No, they were definitely going to be getting a good player out of it. So we have some Hala Madrid fans there on Periscope as well. But I don't know. I was a little surprised. I laughed. I thought it was funny when I saw
Why
that
is
the deal.
that funny? I'd be
because
sad.
he's been trying to get away, and he's been like just anti-Man United for such a long time, and then to find out the deal didn't go through, like everybody in the soccer world was just kind of like, that sucks.
That would suck. I feel so bad for him because one, you're on a team that you don't want to be for or play for. Then two, you're in a totally different country. How alone must that guy feel?
Well, he's got other teammates on on his club that are Spanish that he can communicate.
I
with.
just feel bad for him.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you have a heart, Grant, and I just found it was funny. But that's kind of the
You're heartless. That's what it is.
Yes, and it's not as heartless sometimes, though, Grant, as certain NFL teams when they're making their cuts this time of year.
Well, I mean, they got it.
You have to be. You
It's a
have to be
business.
semi-heartless. It is a business, unfortunately. These are employees of the organizations, and they have to cut them to get down to an appropriate roster size. 53 is the goal before the regular season starts, but last night and today it's going down to 75.
Yep, 75.
So notables, Grant, thus far, two for me that jump out are two running backs. And I know that you have one of them. The other one for me is the Buffalo Bills cutting Fred Jackson. And you had somebody out west.
Yes. Trent Richardson just got cut from the Oakland Raiders. They picked him up in the offseason. They played him in their first three playoff preseason appearances, and he only got 2.8 yards per carry. He hasn't been producing. He hasn't done anything in his career.
That's ridiculous.
It's absolutely crazy just how much hype he had. And you were talking about it before the show, like how big, or you used the word marquee, the big marquee deal when he went over to the Colts. And then
I mean, marquee, I think, was the fact that people were surprised that it happened mid-season.
And then all of a sudden, so he goes over to the Colts all of a sudden, but he does absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And then even the Raiders, I mean, it has to be bad when you get cut from the Raiders. Like, we were going through the list of all the people that have been cut so far, and we found a QB from the Jacksonville Jaguars.
We found
that we've never heard before, and we were like,
Jeff Tull?
You're like, how bad do you have to be?
Somebody run a Google search on who Jeff Tull is.
Like, how
Tuel.
bad do you have to be to get cut from the Jaguars? But anyway, getting cut from the Raiders, how much production is he not giving out for having to be cut from the Raiders?
He's the only player that's been reported that being cut so far. He's
from
the
the
only
Raiders?
Raiders player that has officially been cut. If you scroll through NFL.com's list of all of the players that have been cut from every team, Oakland's only player listed right now is Trent Richardson.
So they were just dead on sure.
They're like, this guy.
First cut out of camp.
Yeah.
Just done.
Like
Don't
Trent.
even want to deal with you.
Oh, my gosh. That's just so weird because he had such a great college career, and then he made the transition to the NFL, and it just never really took off.
That transition is just so weird. Like,
It's hit or miss.
There's
no way around it.
I don't get it, where you can just be fantastic in college, absolutely spot on. And then another thing that came out this morning is 3 Alabama players have been cut. And we know
Really?
Alabama, fantastic football program, and they put together championship seasons, and they went to the championship game this year, or this past year. And you put together teams like that, or you have fantastic players like the Wisconsin running back curse people can talk about, where Wisconsin fields fantastic, absolutely fantastic running backs in college, go to the NFL, and they don't make nearly as big of an impact as they do in college. And there's plenty of players. You can even Manziel recently,
Texas A&M. Yep.
Yeah, there's Tim Tebow. There's been tons of players that. Manziel is still a rookie quarterback, and he hasn't played a full regular season, so he's
technically not a rookie. He's a second-year guy, but I get what you're saying now.
Or not Manziel. I was thinking Winston. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I was thinking Winston. Yeah, but yes, Manziel has not proven himself much of lately, and it doesn't look like he's really going to. So where is that? Where is the secret stat that everybody's trying to find, and where are you going to be good, and where
it's such a apples to apples kind of game because
it's the same sport. Yes, it's on a different level. Yes, it's different players, but it's the same sport.
Exactly.
Like, how can you produce so well at this level, but then you get to this next level, and kids from
Because that's what you just said, though, because they're kids in the eyes of NFL players. In college, you're lucky if you deal with the same guy. If you play, if you're Ohio State and I'm Wisconsin, we play each other, 4 times in college, well, that's all we're going to play each other. In the NFL, if you're on the Vikings and I'm on the Packers, we play each other twice a year, and then for the next amount of years going forward, because we're in the same division or whatever, you have the opportunity to face the same guys for many, many years involved. But in college, you're lucky if your guys stay 4 years.
Right.
In the NFL, a good to elite player stays in the league, 8 to 14 years.
Well, my point is, it's like with these big colleges, they feel like they put all this money into their football program, that they get this great training, and then you can have this isn't a really good example, but I'm thinking of Matt Blanchard from
UW-Whitewater.
Yeah, he is right now really the 4th-string quarterback. He's probably not going to make the roster.
I hope they practice squad him. I hope.
I mean,
I like him.
I mean, yeah, he didn't do too bad against the Eagles, and it's like, where can you get this kid from a D3, I think?
Yep,
Division 3 college, and he made it onto a pro roster when there's some guys from D1 football that are in free agency and are undrafted. So I don't get the level, the difference. And I know it doesn't matter where you go to college, and you can get some great college players.
I was going to say it doesn't matter unless it's draft day. I think that's the only day that it does matter where you went to college.
Because you can get a bigger name for yourself.
You can. If you are a running back from Alabama and a running back from Texas, people are going to take on paper, people are going to be like, oh, even if I didn't know anything, be like, oh, that guy's from Alabama, he's obviously the better running back, without looking at any stats. People just associate certain schools for being way more successful.
Right.
And that's just kind of how it goes. That's how it was with, the Miami Hurricanes for a while, and a lot of those different things.
And then just wondering if any of you have, kind of moving back to getting the cuts, we posted a video yesterday on Facebook, and it's kind of people have been liking it, commenting on it. Baxter, super happy about the Minnesota Vikings cutting tight end Brandon Bostic.
Oh, yes. Karma. I love it. I was hoping the Vikings were going to be blessed with him this year, but they were smart enough.
They wised up.
Connor Christensen will be happy about that.
Got out of Dodge.
Yeah, smart man. I wonder where Bostic's going to go now. Anyway, home?
The golf course.
He hasn't made enough money to do that.
True.
All right, we're going to go to a break, Grant. When we come back, we're going to have our fantasy football expert, David Kenyon, on the line as he's going to answer our latest fantasy football questions and also offer some other advice for the upcoming season. This is the Bax and Grand Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Grant.
Welcome back inside the studio as we get ready to move into another exciting segment, as we're going to be joined in just a moment by David Kenyon of Bleacher Report and the Sports Knot. Grant, yesterday school officially started for you for college. Today officially starts pretty much everybody else in the world.
Well, around the area.
Around the area, at least. My wife is starting her first official day as a teacher for second grade. So
cheers.
She's excited, so I want to give her a special shout-out on the air. So good luck today, sweetheart. I know you're going to do great.
I saw her classroom. It was very
It's
lovely.
adorable. It's very much my wife. For those of you that
really
had the opportunity to listen to the segment that Liz did for us, oh gosh, that was back. It was back a while ago. It was our 50th episode. That was 32 episodes ago. April, I think. She came on and did the 5 should and should nots of dating a sports fanatic. Yes, so if you haven't heard that, go back and check it out. It's our 50th episode on Spreaker.com. She's right there in the first segment and just kind of lays it all out. I've heard multiple people come up to Liz and I and say, your advice, Liz, changed my relationship with my... I was like, wow.
It's spot on. It is very true.
It really is. And it was all stuff that she came up with. It was everything that, I had zero input on it. She was like, hey, how many can I do? I'm like, you can do 5 of each if you'd like. She's like, sounds good. She wrote them out, and then I heard it for the first time like you did on the air. I was like, please don't embarrass me or get me fired.
Well, if your significant other struggles with you watching sports, or say you never paid attention to me, stuff like that,
you're always on your phone checking sports scores.
Send her the link to the show. Let her listen.
Or he. We have females that are like the show that are vice versa.
Send it to your significant other, or put like little Hershey kisses on the computer. Say love you. Understand me, please, and then it's actually really good.
It's a process.
It's actually pretty good advice.
Absolutely, no, I agree, and it was great to have her on. So always a pleasure. So best of luck to her today. She goes off to school, and the other teachers and students as well that are going off to school, wherever they might be around our great nation. All right, Grant. Well, it is time to welcome in our general football expert.
Encyclopedia is
our encyclopedia.
Like
we're going to call him the Encyclopedia of Football.
Yeah, pretty much.
Instead of Encyclopedia Brown, we could have a spin-off series, Encyclopedia of Football. Okay.
Sure.
Well, it's Bleacher Report and the Sports Knots. David Kenyon that was with us today. David, welcome to the show, sir. How you feeling today?
Had better days, but pulling through.
You're pulling through. Do you have
for you guys?
Oh, that's dedication. This guy, see, this is what America is built on.
The dedicated encyclopedia.
People like the encyclopedia that is David Kenyon. I like it. I might adopt that nickname for him now. I don't know. Do you like the encyclopedia nickname? Apparently, because Grant seems to like that for you, David.
I don't mind. That's cool with me.
There we go. Encyclopedia.
That could be like it would be David Encyclopedia Kenyon.
There we go.
David Encyclopedia Kenyon.
There you go. Whenever he has I don't know what career that would be. Like,
WWE. There you go.
Okay. Well,
just
Kenny, you now have
giant books at people.
Okay. All right. Anyway, wow, that was. I mean, I shouldn't even be surprised, honestly, that we went that far. But anyway, David, we brought you on today to talk about some fantasy football things for us. I want to talk real quick, though, as you had predicted an Eagles victory when we chatted to you last Thursday, so well done on that part. I don't think you got the score 100% correct, but you were pretty close, though, I think. And we saw some interesting players emerge in that game against the Packers for the Eagles that maybe fantasy football fans might want to keep an eye on. You mind shedding some light on that?
Yeah, sure. On the Eagles, first of all, it happened right away. We saw how much the Eagles dominated that first quarter, going up 25-0. Sam Bradford, 10 for 10, 121 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And that seems crazy. And, yeah, he's not going to repeat those exact numbers, but it's that high-efficiency offense that the Eagles are going to display throughout the year. And Bradford is a guy that he's impossible to ignore now. And I had to go pick him up in the Bax and Grant Fantasy Football League because I knew I was going to talk about him.
There you
I
go.
had to get him before somebody else did.
Is he? Sorry, I just had a question for you. Is he a streamer or is he a keeper?
That is an excellent question. Right now, I'll stream him.
Okay. Can you
But-
refresh our listeners of what a streamer is in case they didn't tune in last week?
Absolutely. So when you're going into fantasy football drafts, you have the option of spending an early pick on Aaron Rodgers or Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck or Russell Wilson. But then there's the method that I tend to follow is that quarterbacks, there's not a massive point difference between number 3 and number 10. So if you get the right players, you get 2 of the mid-level quarterbacks like Eli Manning, Ryan Tannehill, Sam Bradford, Phillip Rivers, and you can play them depending on the matchup. And so that's a streamer.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you for the refresher for those that didn't tune in last Tuesday. So, so moving forward, then Sam Bradford is a type of player that you should encourage fans to want to go and try to pick up in their leagues if they can.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely not reaching for him in the draft by any means. As you can see in our 12-team league, I think there were 21 quarterbacks on the rosters because I looked through there first before going to free agency, and no one had him, and 21 quarterbacks. So there's a very good chance you're going to be able to draft him late in your draft.
Well, but then after this game with the Packers, he went up against their complete starting defense, their whole defense. Like Clay Matthews, only 2 people didn't suit up, and one was a 4-stringer. So he did make a huge impact against pretty much the starting defense of the Green Bay Packers. So do you think now that after this game his value is going to rise a little bit, or do you think people are just aren't going to care and they're just going to say, oh, it's just a preseason game, it doesn't matter?
I think it will really just depend on your league. There are going to be a lot of people, like if you go in a league with me, Bradford's going to go off the board. But if you're in a league with people who, enjoy fantasy football, they enjoy the NFL, but they're not hardcore, or they don't really put much stake into a preseason game, well, then you can probably go get him late.
What's your opinion about the kicking situation as a whole? I know some people are like, whatever, I'll take the Jets kicker, and some people are like, no, I need a kicker on a high-powered offense. Is there a certain strategy to drafting kickers at all, or is it just kind of just another guy on the team?
It's really both. I need a good kicker, I need good offense, and I really don't care. For example, I have Caleb Sturgis on one team. I have Adam Vinatieri on another team. I like getting Matt Bryant, the Falcons kicker. But it really just doesn't matter to me. The biggest thing I remember about kickers is from 1st to 10th, there's a difference of 20 points throughout the season. Mm-hmm. So that's 1 point per game. So it really doesn't matter. But kicker is a spot I will stream, except for in a couple leagues. I'm in a dynasty league where you have minimal roster spots, but you're trying to keep these good players for the future, so I never have more than one kicker at a time. And what I do there is I try to find a high-powered offense who sometimes might just stall in the red zone. You think of the Colts, or you think of the Falcons, maybe the Saints. I'm not sure this year, but usually the Saints.
Yep, traditionally.
The Cowboys. Yeah. Teams like that. And then, of course, there's the Seahawks and the Patriots, who are also 2 good ones.
Absolutely.
But really, I wouldn't put much stake into it. I think in our draft, there was a kicker who went in the 7th round.
Yeah, and it's weird too because I know our draft was very special because we have a very special grouping of people, and I mean special in air quotes as much as possible. It was kind of a trend. I feel like a defense would come off the board first, or a kicker would come off the board first, and then you'd see an influx of 5 to 8 people all going after
freaking
people.
out.
Like, oh my gosh, I need a defense, I need a kicker. Like, it's the 7th round. Like, how can people not get roped into that kind of thing? Like, I get it; it's common sense sometimes just to say, well, I'm just not going to pick. But is it Is it traditional fantasy drafting that when you see a bunch of one position coming off the board that you need to jump on it right away?
It's very common to see that with people who don't. I think more casual fantasy football fans would be the ones who, I guess, in my view, it's fall victim to that because it really just doesn't matter. Those two positions aren't going to get you a ton of points anyway, and you can stream them. I love streaming.
Exactly.
So I'm going to go pick a receiver, like who could be a number one receiver, like Eric Decker, in the 7th round when somebody else is taking Mason Crosby.
Fair enough. That makes sense. Okay.
Well, I mean, when I was drafted, because that was my first draft, that was my initial response. Like I saw it. Well, not maybe with somebody picked the Seahawks defense. I think 3rd round.
That was like the 4th round. I think someone dropped the Seahawks defense, and we're all like, no. Grant looked at Connor and I were like, no. Don't take a defense.
Yeah, like that was my first response. I was like, and, and thankfully Baxter and Connor were there just to be like, no, calm down. You can wait much, much longer and still get a solid defense.
Yes, yeah. It's people like to have that moment where they freak out a little bit and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to drop everything. I was, ready to go pick up my 2nd or 3rd running back, and a defense just came off the board. No, it's fine. Just relax and
curl up in a ball and cry.
Exactly. Well, one thing, David, is people that are playing fantasy football, they love a good sleeper. They love finding those nuggets of crazy fantasy gold. Aside from Sam Bradford, are there anybody else on their list that fans should keep an eye out for if they're either in the free agent market or maybe not, on their roster and should be starting instead?
I look at a few names where it depends on what kind of league you're in.
Okay.
Personally, I love points per reception league. You get quite literally a point for every reception that somebody gets. And so there's a difference there. In those leagues, you can look at Roy Halou from the Raiders, Danny Woodhead from the Chargers, Alan Hearns from the Jaguars, and even Nelson Aguilar. He's probably both, but especially in a points per reception league, those are the kind of guys you target. But otherwise, I really like Ryan Tannehill. I like Devonta Freeman, Eric Decker, Richard Rodgers, Owen Daniels, and Chris Ivory.
Yeah, those are definitely some names that I recognize. And I mean, points per reception. I know I can speak English. Those leagues I feel like are definitely favored. I've never been a part of any of those leagues before. I've heard good things and I've heard bad things. It all kind of just depends on how people view it. But so moving forward with fantasy football as a whole. The debate continues to rage, I feel, about Russell Wilson and whether or not he is deserving of, elite's the wrong word, but a fantasy football perspective, is he the type of quarterback that you want on your roster all season long, or is he that borderline streamer?
No, he's a plug him in and leave him there starter.
Okay.
He's going to take some bigger hits this year. He's not going to have as much time. That offensive line is not great, but that also means Marshawn Lynch is going to have to carry more defenders, and so they might have to pull away from the run game a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit, and enough that Wilson will have to make more plays himself, which bodes well for fantasy.
Yes. No, I agree. One other question from me. I don't know if Grant has any extras or not, but one from me. Out in Washington, Kirk Cousins being named the Week 1 starter. Does anybody bother with him at all this year, or RG3 at all as a whole?
I don't think so. I'm just really not sold on what Washington has for weapons there. I think you can get away with Alfred Morris, the running back, and if you're in a dynasty league, you look at Matt Jones, the second-string running back. But Deshaun Jackson, he'll actually be okay if you can plug him into a flex spot because he's pretty much the only weapon they have.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't rely on Cousins for more than they happen to be playing the worst defense in the league, so I guess I'll plug Cousins in this week because Tom Brady's on a bye.
All right, and then I have one last question for you. Now, we always like to look back at last year and how many points that the player got last year, and then they have a projected amount of points. Is there any one big player that you think is overprojected for this year, or is not going to turn up or produce as much as they did last year, or a bust? People call it. Is there a specific player you would say to just stay away from and don't even draft them, don't pick them up off waivers, or just pick them up throughout the season, don't even touch them?
That is a really, really good question, and I have to somehow manage to pull up points from last year.
Well,
I
I know.
Give me.
Well, I was going to say I know one name that continues to come up, at least in articles I've seen and conversations I've heard, is Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, and you can take that or leave it for what it's worth. I think Denver will still have a good squad overall this year, but I've heard Denver's quarterback Peyton Manning being on all those lists of make sure to avoid him. He's not going to be as good as he was last year. Well, I suppose. But
then you can kind of just pick him up as a streamer, like we were talking before.
Yes. But how many people are going to stream Peyton Manning, though?
Right. But I mean, you could do that. What I'm saying is, there like a specific player that you don't even want that for? Because like Peyton Manning, even though he's not going to put up as many points people are projecting, because he's not. At the end of last season, he kind of teetered off his normal ability, and they're projecting that he's just not going to be as good.
Yes.
I'm saying, is there like any player that's just going to be absolute trash that you don't want at all? Because Peyton Manning's going to put at least up some points.
Oh, he will.
Because
He'll be
as
fine.
a quarterback, he's still Peyton Manning. Like, he still has a great arm.
Yes.
So he's going to do something to where at some point I feel like you could play him for a game. Like if your usual starting quarterback is on a bye week or something like that. I feel like
a world that we live in where Peyton Manning isn't a full-time starter in fantasy football.
Yeah, he is, though. Don't worry about that. He is.
Okay, good.
I think that's probably one of the best examples, though. Denver is going to be a better, more efficient offense, and they might win as many games, but that's not going to be because of Peyton's arm. They used to just try to outscore, and yeah, you want to outscore you, but they tried to just get in a track meet and win by scoring 40 points. This year, they're going to pound the ball. They're going to rely on C.J. Anderson and Ronnie Hillman. And Peyton's just, he might throw a couple touchdowns, and that'd be good. And he'll be a decent every week starter for you. But he's definitely not the Peyton Manning that threw 55 touchdowns. There's no doubt about that.
We're behind those days, I feel. Fair enough. Well, yeah. Is there anybody else to add to that list at all?
I'm looking through this right now, and I don't see a massive drop-off for a bunch of people. Maybe Jeremy Maclin, because he's not going to catch as many touchdowns in Kansas City, but he's still going to get a ton of yards.
Yes.
So I think you're pretty safe with the players who produced last year. Obviously, there will be a few players who don't meet this expectation, but I think that's pretty safe to say that you're going to see a lot of the players who did well last year do well again this year.
Absolutely. All right. Well, David, we appreciate your time today, sir. We always look forward to your insight, your encyclopedia of football knowledge, as Grant has officially deemed it. So Grant has deemed it, therefore it is law, apparently. Well, we appreciate your time today, sir, and hope you feel better.
All right. Thank you, guys.
No problem. David Kenyon, my good friend of the show, our football encyclopedia, apparently now is how we're going to have to introduce him on the air. Always a good time. Go check out his work over at Bleacher Report and the Sports Knot. We always love having him on the show. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, Grant, do you know what we're going to talk about?
What are we going to talk about?
Deflategate. We're going to talk about Deflategate. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We're going to talk about it. Don't go anywhere. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Grant.
All right, Grant. Well, I know I said those faux pas words before going to a break, but we're going to talk a little bit about Deflategate because yesterday Tom Brady and Roger Goodell, or the commissioner, were back in the courtroom for the continued, long-winded, never-ending, just kill me now trial that is involving Deflategate because this is what we do in America. We waste hundreds of thousands of dollars talking about deflated footballs.
I mean, why not? America.
We've got the capital for it, which, I don't ever understood exactly why we waste so much time doing things of that nature, but that's the tradition of it. So yesterday was another day in court, Grant. No decision was reached, but the judge was saying, you know what, look, this is ridiculous. He said he was going to make a decision in the next day or two, meaning either today or tomorrow, and Lord willing, we can finally put this to bed. And when you talk about Deflategate, Grant, there's only one person that we can really, truly speak with, and listeners of the show know that anytime the Patriots or Deflategate or anything Boston-related is brought up on the show, we need to bring in our Deflategate expert, Sid Powell. So, Sid, welcome to the show this morning, sir. How are you?
Hello.
Hello, Sid? This is always the struggle, I swear. Sid, are you there?
Hello.
Hi. Hello?
Me?
Hi, how we doing this morning?
Good. I had to run to the phone.
No, not a problem at all. You gotta get your morning run in, I understand.
I'm good.
All right. Well, welcome to the show, Sid. We're glad to have you here. We're excited to chat a little bit about Tom Brady's trial yesterday, or whatever exactly it was. I feel like people are making more of a big deal over the fact of the sketch artist getting Brady's picture wrong than they were about the actual content of what happened.
Exactly. And that just lets you know the seriousness of the nature of the crime, right?
Absolutely. I mean, deflated air in footballs, I mean, that's just, that should be at least life, if not the death penalty.
It's true. And the thing is, like I said before, I mean, even the judge said, the quarterback throws the ball, he's got to know something's wrong. I get that. But the referees touch the ball on every play as well. I mean, if they don't notice anything, how would you expect anyone else to really come to the realization something's really wrong?
Yeah, and they didn't modify the balls until halftime. So they set the ball, they touch it after every play, and they didn't notice something after almost a half an hour of football.
I don't understand why, it takes that long. I mean, you're like you said, the refs touch the ball every single play. I mean, even if you're not squeezing the ball, if there's a loss of air pressure, you just holding the ball in your hand. I know for me, if I'm just holding a football in my hand, I can tell if it's flat or not.
Right. And if they're going to make a big deal out of this, you should you should know what the air pressure is when you're picking up the ball then and stuff like that. So. But, I mean, then I guess it goes both ways with Tom Brady did know as well. But, I mean, that's the age-old debate.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we can waste hours upon hours on this.
Right.
And the way that it's sounding right now is that Brady is fine if he gets a one-game suspension. The NFL is pushing for 2, and Brady's like, look, I'm cool with 1 if that's going to make everybody just shut up.
Yeah, I think Brady's cool with whatever they give him as long as he doesn't have to acknowledge that the Ted Wells report is what's deemed him guilty.
Yes.
In other words, he doesn't like the wording of the Ted Wells report that it was done intentionally and to cheat. He wants his name cleared as far as cheating goes. But they don't want to do that. And Roger Goodell pretty much is standing pat and holding on to something that doesn't exist. He's taking the CBA thing way out of that context. Even the judge has said so. I mean, do you know that the CBA exists?
Yeah, exactly. The collective bargaining agreement, I feel like, has definitely been brought up a lot with this. And it's funny because the judge, Judge Berman, has been very open about it, about just everything that's happening in the trail. And I think he's I think he's sick of it.
He's asking for proof.
Yeah.
He's asking for proof.
It's a simple question. It's like, hey, if I went out and shot Grant, okay, well, where's the proof? Well, here's the gun. Okay, you're guilty.
Makes sense.
Simple, straightforward. Sorry, Grant, didn't mean to shoot you.
They can't provide a shred of evidence, and it's just not working well for them. And even if some chance they win and the ruling goes in their favor, they still lost. But they've lost a lot of credibility. And all the other players are looking at this situation. It's like, I don't want to deal with the commissioner. I don't think the rules are fair. I know that we have a collective bargaining agreement in place. It's just like a policeman having the authority that he has. I mean, you can't overstep those boundaries because you're the police and you have things in your jurisdiction to make decisions. there are certain guidelines that you make those decisions based on.
Exactly, and that's what's bothering, I think, a lot of people.
Now, Sid, a quick question for you for our listeners that might not know all the evidence or all the situation. Like, what's the big argument with not having the evidence? What does the NFL have, or like that is
supposedly that
overinflating that
You're
they
done.
that
There is no rule. There is no rule. It's an equipment issue, and in the collective bargaining agreement, as part of that equipment issue pertains to teams, not individual players.
So the team as a whole should be getting punished in terms of that $1 million fine and draft pick loss. That's really what it should be coming down to?
If there is conclusive evidence, yes. The same holds true for the team. There has to be conclusive evidence. You can't just go and say, well, they said so, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, and how do you measure error? I mean, it's everywhere, for gosh sakes.
It's never been such a pertinent issue until now. And the thing, I guess, that really makes the NFL look bad is that he came out with a whole new set of guidelines for the ball, taking care of the football and measuring it, all that stuff in July, when all this took place supposedly in January.
Yeah.
So that's an admission of guilt the way I see it.
Exactly. I feel like
with the rules 6 months later.
It's kind of like, oh yeah, we messed up. Sorry. Like this is. Why can the NFL get?
We're not going to milk.
Yeah, and I want to know, is it at all possible for the NFL to receive any sort of punishment? Like, can the commissioner receive any punishment for his role in any of this?
That's still to be determined. But I would think right now the commission is on its last leg as commissioner based on the facing of the league right now. It doesn't matter how this turns out. They can't take away the fact that they made a mountain out of a point. That's never going away.
Yeah, and I think it's something that's going to live in the eternal legacy that is the NFL.
Now, how much? Because we're talking about how this is just being taken way out of proportion. How much do you think that this is based off of the previous cheating scandal with Spygate that the Patriots were involved with a couple years ago? Do you think that plays a big role in just Goodell just trying to stick it to the Patriots because of that?
Well, the same thing holds true. I mean, without any proof, there's really no case. I mean, honestly, if you look at any poor man's decision would look at it and say, well, yeah, you're looking at them as repeat offenders, so obviously there's got to be some libel there. But the thing is, there's no evidence. My problem with Spygate, is the fact that there really wasn't a whole lot of evidence of Spygate either. That rule was just changed the year before it happened. Everybody was doing it.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, as we discussed before, Goodell used to be a Jets PR man. The Jets had been accused of it the previous year and got no fines, no penalties, no loss of draft picks, no punishment whatsoever. Just a stern warning. So to turn around the following year and give the Patriots the biggest fine in NFL history as a team, or the coach in this case, it just doesn't make any sense for a first-year rule. And I don't see the precedent that was set there.
Yeah, that's I think another thing that always goes back is that people are like, well, this is just Goodell versus the Patriots because he's a Jets fan or he used to work for the Jets. Like, being able to put that aside, like that's the hard part is the fact that it's regardless if Goodell denies that up and down all day, it's the fact that he still did what he did, so it looks worse than maybe he thought it was going to.
Right. I don't think he expected it to get this big and out of control.
No.
But I mean, he wouldn't let go and admit guilt in any sense of the word because of the other accusations that were overturned last season and season prior. And he's 0-4 in district court, which doesn't bode well for him. And they were all both basically with Judge Doty. Now we have Judge Berman, who is asking the same types of questions that Judge Doty would ask, and is looking at it from a relative poll perspective rather than one side.
Yeah, which is not rocket science, I feel like. It's simple. If I was a judge, my first question is, all right, here are the arguments. Okay, now where's the evidence? Like, that's
all he's asked for.
That's like basic court 101. Like, if I'm going to convict somebody, I just need to know that there's proof to do it, because you don't want to send an innocent man to jail, to whatever is end up being debated. But it's basic, and I don't understand why the NFL is having such a hard time doing these. If they have evidence, I feel like they would have dropped it on the table and been like, here it is, like, convict Tom Brady, burn the Patriots, blah blah blah. But they've got nothing.
They have so many other places they can use in that attorney money.
Exactly.
And that's where all the owners are finally getting upset about it, because there are retired players that could be using that money. There are all kinds of other issues that need attention that aren't getting the attention, and it's a waste of time. And it's kept the NFL in the news throughout the summer, which is a good marketing material ploy, but it just doesn't really help the league. And for the world's most popular sport to be suffering in the public eye like that, it's really a black eye
It is. It absolutely is. And I think that the league moving forward is going to have a hard time regaining a lot of that respect and just overall I mean, I don't think the NFL is going to have a massive drop-off in terms of followership, but people are going to be more supportive of their specific teams than they are of the league as a whole. They're like, yeah, I support the Vikings, the Bengals, and they play in the NFL. So, you try not to spend too much time focusing on the entity that they are a part of as more so just the single organization. I mean, it's a difficult situation. Nobody likes it. Deflategate has been talked about way more than I think Watergate with Nixon was, and that was a public national crime basically, and no one's. I feel like at this point Nixon would be like, why didn't I think Nixon would be glad that he didn't go through basically what Tom Brady and the Patriots have had to go to at this point. But Sid,
I think he'd want to be on the next appeals board.
honestly, I think that they should be using some of that. But Sid, we appreciate your time today. Always a pleasure. As hopefully, Lord willing, in the next day or two, we will have an official. We can finally just
be done.
Put it to bed. Decision. We'd love to hear your opinions on it once we finally hear it. So we look forward to hearing from it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Sid, you enjoy your day, sir. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, man.
No problem. Sid Powell, our local and relative and awesome. Wow, I just pushed the wrong button. That was my fault. First day in the studio. Sorry about that. Everyone's like, the music, and it's gone. Anyway, I don't know. Some days.
You're just a struggle.
My coffee's gone. My coffee's gone, so therefore.
I'll pump it back into your veins
for you. I need to hit me up with another IV. We're going to go to a break. Wow. Anyway.
You need like one of those coffee patches from what movie was that?
Oh,
I think it was Meet the Robinsons. I think it
something.
was.
Yeah. I need a coffee patch. I don't need the smoking patch. I need the coffee patch. Just straight into the arm.
Just go have 10 of them. Just go absolutely nuts.
That would be awesome. All right, we're gonna go to a break. When we come back, something is maybe a little bit mentally wrong, Grant. With maybe me, maybe you. No, not with either of us. But there's an interesting story that Bleacher Report has shared with the world that I think that Packer fans might find a little humorous.
It's
good.
A
feel good story.
It's good.
You're gonna enjoy it. We're gonna be right back. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Grant.
Welcome back inside the studio as we continue to roll on with a Tuesday edition of the show. Remember, you can catch us now Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. Central, live right here on Spreaker.com, and from 11 to 1 Central on SportsRadioAmerica.com as well. And then you can also check us out on Periscope and Live 365 and TuneIn and iHeartRadio and iTunes.
And all the places.
And all those places. Social media, we're everywhere. He's at Grant's Rant BGSS. I'm at Baxter Colburn. All right, Grant, one final feel-good story before we go away for the day and come back tomorrow on Hump Day. When you think of Aaron Rodgers, Grant, what do you think of?
The best quarterback in the league right now.
Wow, that's so tall. Best quarterback in the league. Now, would you ever think of him as a hindrance or a bad person or even a tumor?
Not a tumor. Maybe if you're like NFC North team that's not the Packers, I feel like you would see him as a hindrance.
Fair
but no, not a tumor.
Okay, well, there's an interesting story that has been brought out, that has been brought to our attention via Bleacher Report. Dan Carson, one of the exciting writers over at NFL, the NFL version, the NFL side of Bleacher Report. I knew exactly what I wanted to say, but words and stuff, Grant. Some days.
Coffee.
Yeah, I need more. Anyway, an interesting, heartwarming story. There is a boy named Miguel Reyes, who is a 14-year-old Chicago Bears fan. Now, Miguel Grant was diagnosed with stage 3 brain cancer last year. Very unfortunate, sad time. And you'd think when you would get a tumor, you'd want to name it something, helpless or weak, or like the Browns or, the Jaguars, something like that. It's just not that you're going to be like, I'm going to crush you, tumor, I don't need you. No, that's not that many people name their tumors, but
right.
Miguel thought it would be good to name it since he is a huge Bears fan. He wanted to prove that he could beat a tumor that's stage 3 and show that he is capable of taking down the man. So he named his tumor Rodgers.
Yeah.
In honor of the Green Bay Packers in terms of wanting to beat Rodgers.
Yeah, and it's kind of a cool thing because Aaron Rodgers, like for the Bears, is a formidable opponent. I would imagine that stage 3 brain cancer or a tumor is a formidable opponent. And the idea all came from one of his teachers, and she was like, why not name it? It can give you something. And she's a Packers fan, and so she's like, why not name it? Just like, oh, it'll be something nice.
Yes.
And like it'll like give him something to focus on to take it out. And then she was like, and the little stinker picked Rodgers.
Yeah, I know. It was funny, too. It says a quote from Miguel. It says, "The Packers suck," and those are the first words that Miguel used when he was talking about sports with the reporter that first broke the article. He wanted to name it, and so he said, "Hey, I'm going to name it Rodgers because I think the Packers suck, and I want to prove to the world that you can overcome all adversities, even when your tumor is named Aaron Rodgers as well." So the Reyes family has started a GoFundMe campaign as well, hoping to raise enough money to pay for the training needed to teach their dog Hester to work as a seeing eye dog and detect the seizures that Miguel experiences as the result of the tumor.
Now, Baxter, Hester sounds like a very familiar name.
It does. It's almost maybe like they took the now Falcons player, former legend Bears, Devin Hester.
Their miracle return man.
Yes.
And
that's such a... I love it. I love what they're doing with this.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, if you haven't heard this before, dogs now can detect if you have a seizure. Mm-hmm. And Miguel, unfortunately, because of this brain tumor, sometimes has seizures. And it sometimes is a hard thing to pick up on. And they're trying to train this dog now that they got, Hester, the miracle dog, to... detect these seizures, and so they named him Hester after the miracle return man.
I absolutely agree.
When I was reading this story, it's like, even as a Packers fan, you can find a lot of appreciation out of this.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you on that one. So, yeah, if you haven't checked it out, go to BleacherReport.com under their NFL section and check it out. So, Miguel, from all of us here at the Baxter Grant Sports Show, we wish you the very best. I've never, ever wanted Rodgers to be beat in my life,
right?
But in this situation, Miguel,
I'm all for it.
Yes, we wish you the best, and like I said, you can go check out their GoFundMe campaign as well for the Reyes family and for Hester as well. So a feel-good story, and best of luck to you, Miguel, going forward, and good luck to your Bears this season also.
We're going to need it.
It's been another exciting edition of the show. We appreciate Sid Powell and David Kenyon coming on the show today to talk with us about many exciting topics of fantasy football and Deflategate and Tom Brady's trial. We're going to sign off for the day. When we come back tomorrow, we got all kinds of fun things to talk about. The Thompson brothers, they're taking over the sports world. It's Wednesday, which means you've got your rant. It's hump day and everything else that happens as well. So thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Baxter Grant Sports Show. We will see all of you tomorrow from 7 to 8 a.m. Central on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. He's Grant Coppersmith. I'm Baxter Colburn. Have a great day, everyone. Take care, be good, be safe, and stay out of trouble.